What's up, my precious little pack, and welcome back to VEGA Conflict. There's a few things I'd like to do. First off, I'm going to be setting up the first fitting, and my objective is I want to help you guys get from a low tier into the Xeno or Axis division, and then from there you'll be able to progress into the Altarian and Past when they come out. Now, first off, I'm going to be building an experimental build, but first fitting that you'll be using will be actually this fleet. And it will be thermal beam 3s. You'll be strapping up as much armor with light shielding, and your objective with this fleet is just to allow them to auto-farm the level 40 and 50s. Now, I have another fleet that'll be a lower level because the production time of this fleet, it'll take you a few weeks to build each fleet, and you're going to need multiple because you're going to be farming such a low level. You're going to need plenty of ships to be able to farm. And I have another fitting that'll probably die, but I'll have to test it out tomorrow and see how well they do. I don't think that they'll survive, only due to the fact that the ship lacks in shielding and armor, and the weaponry I gave it was specifically meant for crowd control. But I've been farming up the blueprint pieces for a few destinies, and I've had them blank for a while, but I decided what I'm going to do is set them up with the reverb ray. Now, if anybody knows what the reverb ray is, we all know that it gains damage as it bounces from targets. It hits 3 targets, the first target and 2 additional targets, so it chains 3 times. The objective of the fleet that I have right here that I'm producing, well, that I will produce, I only have 3 credits, and during this supply run I've managed to get enough to mark upgrade a 4th Destiny Cruiser to Mark III. But the objective is I needed something that had 2 weapon slots minimum, but it needed more weight than the Genesis, and it only needed 2 weapon slots because if you added the 3rd weapon slot, when you added in the range and everything like that, you quickly lost your shielding and your armor. With this, it gets a level 2 shield and level 3 Zenith armor. Each ship will only take about 31 minutes to repair, so you'll be able to farm with them multiple times a day. But again, you're going to have multiple fleets, so even if you lose them all, the objective is just to get a little bit of intel at a time. So to begin with, you'll build a singular fleet, and it'll take about 15 hours, well, almost 16 hours to build each of these little ships, only because of what they have fitted on them. And I wouldn't recommend the Echo Ray, but the Reverb Ray I can, just because it scales in damage. So against the aliens it may be highly useful, but I'll have to test it. So it'll be in either the practice fleet it'll be in one of the practice test fleets. But it'll be the Reverb Ray on them, because it's a cruiser only weapon, and I needed something that had lightweight, but could be used on a low tier ship at the highest level, so it's 2 reverb rays by level 3 on the Destiny, backed up by Metaphase Shield level 2 and Xinthium Armor level 3. And Focused Optics 5. And the sole objective of it is specifically just to do damage. And I never used the Destinies because I never found a use for them, because I always used my Exodus cruisers with light armor. Well, with this fitting, the Exodus would have only been able to have a level 1, well, 2 level 3s and a level 1 reverb ray, which only added 8 damage per second, and the chain would only jump up to 29 or 30 damage, I believe. Or is it 24? I'd have to check and see, because it doubles each time it bounces, if I'm not mistaken. Or something around that, where it adds 50% additional damage per bounce, but it gets stronger as it bounces. So I'm gonna check this fleet out. So this is tech that you necessarily won't have right away, because the Reverb Ray, I haven't seen it in a while circling through any of the strikes. I haven't seen it in Planet or in Sector. But I'll have to test the fitting out, because there's an alien strike starting tomorrow, so I'll take a single ship in just to test it. As for everything else in game, I do have something else to say. I have another concept idea. This isn't necessarily a concept idea like anything I've done before. Give me a second, I'm going to start reading this off. And yes, I actually typed something up. And I'll share it in the description if it fits. Fighting on the planets that we orbit in space whilst farming from asteroids would be something, well, fighting on the planets that we orbit in space, whilst farming from asteroids would be something new and could bring a few people back as well as give current players and new players alike something else to do. What would the benefits be and what would the negatives be of this type of idea? Well, a few positives would be that a new event type of its own would come into the game and allow the same token prices that we are used to by now to be more openly available to everyone that has a Planetary Interaction Module. Within their starbase, what would the module's functions be and how can it be useful? For starters, its main function would be the production of planetary assets and housing for infantry, a garage for planetary combat vehicles, and a storage bay for planetary aircraft, as well as being a launching point for a planetary outpost through which you will produce additional units in combat and fight for control over an area on the planet. How would the combat of this type of mode work in VEGA conflict? It would be similar to how the combat works now. We would fit our ground teams with weapons and stuff, and see how we would fit them as we see fit, mostly. Just like our spaceships, we would deploy our initial ground forces and the planetary outpost, which must be defended or you will lose. Your outpost will be the only structure gets deployed, but if you lose, even if you still have ground forces, it's an instant defeat. And fight for control of the area of the planet. The damage types could be the same that we have thus far: energy, explosive, and projectile, which are the standard researchable types. So nothing would change there, and damage could remain constant like on the ships, so they would have X number of damage per second, and things like that. We'd be fighting other players for percentage-based control of a planet, while earning a bonus for our clans as a whole whilst doing so. That bonus could be any number of things, from an intel bonus during an ongoing event, strike, or crafting-related event, to a resource bonus from our starbase's modules that harvest mineral ore and helium-3 from the asteroids. How strong would the bonus be? No more than 5 to 10% bonus to either intel gained or resources produced per hour in our starbase. Something else I didn't type up that I'm going to add right now: they could also produce a time token once an hour and produce a 1 hour time token for your control of the portion of the planet. How would it all look in game? Well, that would be up to the development team to decide. But I will at least say how I would like it to look. Instead of fighting in a fully rendered landscape/view, I would want it to be a holographic view of the combat zone that the players will be deployed into. So no textured ground or animated models of units fighting. Instead, I would like to see 3D icons of unit types deployed moving around, with a little health bar above or below the icon. And how we view it, it should all be holographic, so no texture, but instead a light blue glow emanating from the 3D icon, the edges of the 3D landscape, as well as the 3D landscape itself. So it would seem as though we're actually in the bridge or somewhere else looking down on a battlefield that is currently going on down below for what could be resources, time tokens, any number of things, including if an event type would come up and you have to fight planetary combat for it. And I think it would be beneficial for the game's advancement as well as to give something new for the players to do. And I haven't come up with the stats for the planetary module or anything like that yet. I haven't come up with weapon names or anything like that, but I'll do that in a separate video. But the two things I wanted to talk about now, I already talked about. So if you like the idea of the planetary combat, or if you have any questions about it, go ahead and say so below in the comments section, because I really would like to know. But it would be interesting because we all orbit the planets because we can see them below. And typically the person who owns the planet wouldn't change for this type of idea. It wouldn't change based on who has the highest number of medals or anything like that. It would still be whoever has the highest number of medals would control the planet, but it wouldn't be controlled in the way that you think. They would control the planet, well, their name would be over the planet due to them having the medals, but control of the planet itself would be split up into a 100% combat ratio, and each individual player would be able to control 5% on their own. Each time you do a battle, you have a chance to win or lose 1% of the control. So if you have a clan of 20 people, you would theoretically be able to control an entire planet, but you'd have to maintain it and defend it. And the benefits would scale, because as you gain more control, you'd be able to have more. You'd be able to get more tokens and stuff like that, or stronger tokens. Or in the case of resources, stronger boosters. But I think it would be interesting to see in game. Let me know what all of you think of that idea below, and I will post a video either tomorrow on the testing against the alien strike, which is the single ship, because I don't think I'll be able to produce a second one at this time, because I'm currently saving up Blood Amber. I would literally buy a time token right now, but I need the Blood Amber and the coins for something else that I have planned. But if any of you agree with what I've said, feel free to say so below. If you want to talk about the idea more and help develop it a little bit more, say so below, because I will be doing a part 2 to this to talk about the statistics of the ground units that will be deployed, the outposts and stuff like that, how it would look. And I think the outpost should be the only thing that actually has a 3D model in it other than the landscape. And that is just solely because, well, it's your outpost. It shouldn't just be your icon. It just says this is the outpost. It should actually produce and put out the icons that would be representing your ground forces, which would be, as I said, you'd have infantry that you can fit with whatever you want. So you can give them energy weapons, projectile weapons, explosive weapons. Then you'd have your standard vehicles. You'd have ground vehicles that could be equipped with energy, explosive, and projectile again, and air vehicles, well, aircraft, that can be equipped with, yet again, energy, explosive, and projectile. And I didn't work on the stats or anything like that for them, but I will do a separate video possibly later or tomorrow. If I can get it up later today before the day ends, I'll be happy. But I doubt that'll happen due to the time frame. And I'll show off the fitting. If the Destiny Cruiser fitting works for the reverb ray, that will have to be added to a prize list that I'll do at some other time that will actually be necessary to advance in the game. So this is kind of the first episode of the advancement series, because I showed you off the fitting that you would be using, the thermal beam 3s by 4 on Revelation Cruisers, but I wanted to try and cut the time back a little bit on that. But I'm going to go ahead and end it here, everybody. If you liked the video, feel free to leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you want to see more. And as always, everybody, I'll see you later.